Are you ready?
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 Are you ready to forget your family and your job? World Cup, oh, oh. Football round the clock, football round the clock, football round the clock. World Cup, oh, oh. Football round the clock, oh, oh, oh.
Hello and welcome to Football Around the Clock. I'm your host, Derek Pyle. Today I'm joined by Ray and David. Charles
Heyo.
will be joining us later. So today we are going to talk about the third round of the group stage and the knockout round. Some crazy games that happened this last couple of days. So let's jump right into it. First, let's briefly just go over or start out with Group C from the first game after Monday. This game was on Tuesday morning. We had Denmark versus France as a 0-0 tie. Nothing really to mention there, guys.
Nothing.
No.
Ugly.
Actually,
Yeah.
Ray, how do you think of Denmark's performance? Just a little something for Denmark.
Well, I mean, it was a very boring game. Neither side attacked very well or had, France didn't put out a particular strong lineup.
Mm-hmm.
A tie was going to keep the things the way they were. Denmark just needed a tie to go through. France needed a tie to win the group. So both teams played it pretty safe. So,
And I know we're going to talk about this later, but even though Denmark came in second in the group, maybe they feel like they won because they think that going against Croatia is better than going against Argentina. I know Argentina is not looking great, but as far as big names in the World Cup go, Argentina is a big name.
Mm-hmm.
no, yeah, definitely. I mean, before the World Cup, if Denmark would have came out, the predictions, Denmark coming out in second, and most people, would have thought Argentina would have come out first, so that would have been a tough matchup. Croatia is still a tough matchup, but it's, a little different.
Yep, that's true. So let's move on to the second match happening at the same time on the Tuesday morning, which was Australia versus Peru. And the second game in Group C. Peru beat Australia 2-0. Really didn't result in anything.
Congrats to Peru for scoring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for winning because Australia has been a tough team to play against for other teams, and Peru dispatched them. So, a little late, but playing for pride, and they got it. Congrats to Peru.
Yep, congrats to them. Then let's move on to later in the afternoon on Tuesday to the Iceland-Croatia game, where Croatia beat Iceland 2-1. Thoughts on this game, Ray?
I mean, Croatia, pretty much had the group won. They sat some of their stars like Mandzukic and still ended up coming out with a great result and eliminating Iceland from the tournament. So all 9 points for them in the group stage.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to add some stuff because my parents, when I was talking to them, they were like, go Iceland. I don't know what they said. They didn't do their fingers because we were on the phone. But I would just like to congratulate Iceland for making the World Cup even more global. I think that people that didn't even care about soccer were intrigued with Iceland's story. So I think that was a success. And I think that how they played was a success. It's too bad that they didn't do well in the group, that they didn't get out. But it's a success story nonetheless for a country that small, and they're going to continue to improve.
Yeah, it's a little sad side story from Iceland there, but yeah, congrats on making World Cup and making it this far, and doing some 1-2 punches to Argentina and proving their worth to the world, that they have some talent in their pool.
Yeah, because even though they did well in the Euros, everyone can say that's a one-time thing, and the fact that they did fairly well in this tournament, they played hard, they were formidable. Yeah, congrats.
Yep. Just so you guys know, we're not going to. If you guys don't know who moved on, we'll mention that, but we're going to wait until the very end to show you guys the round of 16 table. We just don't want to show that quite yet. Moving on to the second game that happened at the same time was Argentina, Nigeria. Now this game for me was nuts. Like Nigeria took it to Argentina. Pretty crazy game. Messi, scored his usual goal. But then Nigeria came back, and then Argentina.
You say it was a usual. You say it was a usual goal for Messi. It was an incredible goal.
Well, yeah, I know, but I don't know. To me, it looked like one of his usual goals. That you see him make at Barcelona.
No, absolutely. I just want to highlight the fact that we're calling it usual because it was incredible, and it was with right foot, which his right foot's only as good as like the best other soccer player in the world's off the right foot. His left foot's the best foot in the world, but the right foot's only just as good as like a really 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 good right foot. Anyway, sorry.
No, keep going, David. What do you think about Argentina in this game?
Once again, I was disappointed. Until that goal, I felt like Messi was marked out of it. I felt like he wasn't doing anything. Then when he scored that goal, I think it opened it up a little, but they still didn't look that dangerous. Nigeria still looked the better team. And then Argentina got super lucky with an off-foot shot by Rojo, who's playing center back. And I think that if we take this game, we can look at it, the fact that Mascherano, he got, his face was like bleeding the whole game. Apparently no one cared about that. And he lifted the team, not so much with his play, but with his attitude. And I think that's what Argentina needed. I think that by getting rid of the coach, that's what they needed. Will that carry them very far? I don't think so. But at the very least, they got through the group stage. And disappointing overall because I really thought Nigeria was the better team. Other than that, yeah.
Yeah, thoughts on this game, Ray?
No, yeah, I mean, with both teams, their World Cup lives were on the line, so they had everything to play for. Nigeria just needed a draw. Argentina obviously needed all 3 points. Just Messi's goal, great ball by Banega, and then Messi, doing what he does. And then I like how they've emphasized on calling PKs of the grabbing by defenders in the box this World Cup. It's happened a few times, and that's how Nigeria got their PK from Mascherano, holding a guy down. It's something that just hasn't been called like in the last, 20 years. I don't know how it got away from that or whatever, but I'm glad they're emphasizing that. And then, Rojo's goal, just very out of the ordinary and saved Argentina from humiliation. I don't think they're going to go very far. I think they, like David said, were very fortunate to pull this game out and go into the knockout round. But I don't think it proves, that problems are solved or anything. I think they look, you look at their manager, how do you say his name? Sampaoli. He used to coach Chile, and the playing style is just so similar where it just looks like chaos out there. It doesn't seem to be any type of organization. Chile relied on Alexis Sanchez to do things, and Argentina is relying on Messi. So a really gritty game, and Argentina is fortunate to go through. And congrats to them, I guess. Pretty disappointing and sad for Nigeria, though.
I think that they did make some changes. When I say they, once again, I'm referencing Mascherano and Messi as the co-leaders because, Sampaoli I don't think did anything. But I think Banega was a very key ingredient that they've been missing. I think he made some key, like that pass to Messi and some other key balls. But apart from that, we'll see if they grow. Like everyone's been talking about how the tournament grows, how at the beginning and there's a lot of chaos and then it grows. So maybe they'll do better come the knockout stages. But I don't know. At the very least, they've saved themselves from the blushes of getting like absolutely destroyed in the group stage. And because think about it, they could have ended up on 1 or 2 points quite easily, and that would have been an absolute embarrassment for Argentina. So
Yeah, some really late Argentina players showing up for their team and getting that win, advancing to the knockout stage. Let's move on to the next day, Wednesday, to the first morning game where we had Mexico versus Sweden. This game, I just gotta make a few comments because I don't know that like I thought when Mexico beat Germany. After I watched that game, I thought like there's so much hype around Mexico right now, just because they beat Germany and coming into this tournament, whatever. So I just couldn't believe it. And they went face South Korea, beat them. I'm like, okay, it's South Korea, and so I was really relying on this game. I think a lot of people were to really determine how good Mexico really is. Because my opinion is, maybe it's some other people's opinion too, that Germany this year was a fluke. Nobody knows what happened. Like, their chemistry is horrible, formation is horrible, passing horrible, finishing horrible. Just everything about the team was just wrong and totally out of sync. And honestly, I think I agree with you. Like you said last time, Ray, they should have lost to Sweden. If it wasn't for the miracle Toni Kroos goal. So really, or maybe tied. I don't know. You might call the Royce goal a miracle too, but at least tied. So Germany could have been knocked out by Sweden with like 1 point. But I think this really shows Mexico's true color. And also granted to Sweden, how good Sweden really can be without Ibrahimovic. So yeah, those are my 2 cents. Let's go around the clock and go to Rain first. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think the first half was pretty close. But I mean, I guess I agree to a certain extent with your point that Sweden absolutely handed it to Mexico in the second half, and the way we've seen Germany play, and we'll talk about their result a little later, I guess doesn't, show how, can't be a measure of how good Mexico is just because Germany, their name and everything, but based on their actual performance this World Cup, it's not as an impressive win. So, but yeah, I mean, Sweden, I think they've been excellent this tournament, and with this win, they topped the group. So congrats to them.
Absolutely. You got to give all props to Sweden. And I think at the beginning when we were doing predictions, we were talking, at least I was down on Mexico. And so I'm not saying that this is validation because they got through the group, but they did not play well in this game. And I don't know if Sweden really did anything spectacular. I think they just played smart football and didn't leave the gaps that Germany had been leaving. And I think that was enough to shut down Mexico's attack. So
I agree with that point right there. Yeah, Sweden, played against Mexico as, Germany was just trying to play their, I don't know, they're attacking. I don't know what they're actually doing. But
something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if I could just, on Sweden, they played like differently this game too, specifically in the second half. They didn't do their sit back,
I agree with that, yeah.
defend really well. They went after Mexico and attacked them, and that gave Mexico huge problems. And like, let's be honest, Sweden's attack, isn't up with the best of them, but their team unity is great. That's why it's a great decision not to bring Ibrahimovic to the World Cup, because that would have totally ruined everything.
Then like Argentina and Poland and all these other teams with a one star.
And let's remember, they knocked out Italy over 2 legs. to get to the World Cup. They were in the group with Germany and essentially knocked them out and won the group, even though they didn't beat them. But, they won the group Germany was in and played a role in them being knocked out. So they're really impressive. They're very workmanlike, and their team unity has just got them really far. So
yeah, and I don't want to denigrate their attack. I was more because I think that you're right. The second half they really went at Mexico. I was just more pointing out that it's not like they did anything special. They absolutely did play a different style of game than they're used to, which I think is very incredible actually. Because usually teams that have trouble, that I don't know. I'm trying to think of good examples, like when Atletico Madrid have to come out and play attacking, which they're actually really good at. But like some people are like, oh no, they can't do that. Or when England, when they go through the group stage or the qualifying stage and they beat up on all these teams, like who do they usually play? Like Luxembourg and
Malta,
whatever. And then they play against Germany and the big boys, and they have to play a totally different style. And that's what they always complain about. They're always like, oh yeah, we have to play one way in qualifying and then switch it up when we get to the big stages. And so the fact that Sweden showed that they can do that, I think that's an incredible thing. They showed that they can play one way when they're feeling battered and they're getting attacked, and then another way when they feel like it's time to really step it up and bring it to them. So absolutely. I 100% agree.
Yeah, I think that goes along a lot with what Ray was saying with unit cohesion and chemistry, that's directly connected to how they can adapt to certain situations in the game. So yeah, on that note, let's go to the second game. On the same time on that Wednesday morning to South Korea versus Germany.
Shocker.
Ray, I was just about to ask this. Was there like any difference in play from the last couple of group stage games from Germany?
No, I mean, I think it's who they are and their system and how they do things. I don't think it was the reason why they got knocked out of the tournament.
Okay.
I think, I don't know, there's a bunch of theories. There's player performance. You look at how the players, like Thomas Mueller 4 years ago was scoring 20 goals a season, and now he can barely score 10. He scores less than 10, at the club level. So his form is absolutely terrible. You look at the other individual players, their form 4 years ago was a lot better than it was this 4 years. And then, there's the theory, you look at 4 of the last 5 World Cup champions have been knocked out in the group stage. And it's all different nations. Nobody knows why that is, but there's something to that. Also, I know it's a completely different team, but Germany won the FIFA Confederations Cup last year. No team that has won the Confederations Cup has gone on to win the World Cup. And so my theory kind of on that is, they brought a B team to the Confederations Cup and it was able to annihilate the competition. So the thought process for Germany in that is kind of like, well, we're so good, it doesn't matter what we do. And I just think, kind of somewhat of that mentality played a role in their poor performance in this World Cup. As for the match between South Korea and Germany, like you said, it's the same. Pressure, missed chances. And in the end, South Korea was able to pull it out. And, yeah, just very poor from Germany all 3 games. So they deserve to go out.
I'd like to add what you're saying about the Confederations Cup and about the World Cup winners not being able to get out of the group stage, or at least failing. Like I think France failed in the round of 16. No, Brazil failed in the round of 16. Anyway, I agree. I think it's partially overconfidence. Partially, I heard some people suggesting that maybe it was because they were too afraid to drop the people that got them to the World Cup that won it for them last time. I think that people really underestimate how difficult it is to play basically a full year straight of football, like year after year after year after year, because all those guys that won the World Cup, they're all playing top level football. They don't really get a summer off. They're always busy, which is, not to be a homer, but that's the reason why Spain the accomplishments that they had between 2008 and 2012 were so incredible because all those guys didn't stop playing football. So in reference to this game, the team, Germany didn't look like they played great. South Korea was able to hold up their collective, I don't know, defense and survive. But there were like mental mistakes all over, as evidenced by Kroos's back pass, and that led to the first Korean goal. There were, and Korea, what was Korea playing for? Did they have a chance to go through?
Yeah, they actually did. They had to have, if Mexico would have beat Sweden and Korea would have beat Germany, Korea would have went ahead over Sweden and
I think you're right, because I remember some of the Korean players thought they had won and thought they had gone through. And so that was sad for them. But either way, like, you know, must-win games, and then Germany doesn't perform. And so other analysis was that Germany didn't have, like, Timo Werner wasn't a good enough focal point, that they had people like Ozil that, you know, maybe tried hard but just didn't do very much. As Ray mentioned, Mueller, who just hasn't been the same person, for the same goal scorer for the past 2 years. I know that I'm always in favor of bringing in younger, hungry players, which Germany has in spades. But I also think that maybe if they still had Costa, they might have gotten through.
Yeah, that could have helped because they had no. And I mentioned that, you know, when we were doing our first World Cup podcast, was I worried about Germany's goal scoring, and it was clearly evident Werner was not good enough. And yeah, no striker. You had Gomez, didn't do much. You just look up and down that roster with the usual players. Their club form and how they played this past season over the past year was just not very good. And so I can't, throwing them all together and then expecting them, they didn't play good for their club, but they'll play good for Germany. That's too much to ask. So I think Love, you know, you have that loyalty with your stars and stuff, but I think that helped in the Confederations Cup, bringing just a bunch of new guys in who are hungry, and that's why they were able to do so well. I would have liked to seen more of them in this tournament.
I know that there's a really important aspect to having unity in the locker room and a certain amount of veteran leadership, but you definitely need to mix in more youth. Like if you were a club team that 4 years later played the same group, you would say that there's no hunger for some of the players because they're not feeling their position is threatened. That's what you would say. You'd be like, no, you should bring in hungrier, younger players. So why is that not happening on the national stage? Sorry, Germany. That's my one of my biggest complaints about Spain is that they had a really hard time letting go of the players that got them so far. Yeah. So I think Germany should have done the same thing. And it's, of course, really easy to look in hindsight, but also I think the tactics with having Kroos so deep and not having a strong central defensive midfielder, I think there were a lot of issues. And I don't know if we want to bring this up, but do you think Love will stay or go?
I know I heard before the Korean match that the DFB was already in contract negotiations for an extension. I personally think he should go. I mean, he's been great for Germany since he took over and after Klinsmann, after the 2006 World Cup. He's been to at least the semifinal or final in every major competition, Euro, World Cup, since 2008. And so, he has a World Cup win. So he's been great. But after, I don't know, something like this, I just think, you know, being a national team coach for that long, I think there needs to be, you know, a change.
Yep, I agree. I think there needs to be a revamping of the Germany team. Get rid of some old players, put in some new players. Hence Sané.
They really missed him.
So speaking of which, I don't know what he would have changed. because I think it was more than just one player. I think they needed
it
like
was.
3 or 4 different players.
Yeah.
But I bet he feels kind of, I don't know about good, but like maybe justified at being left out. He probably feels all right about it now, because if you get left out and they win, then you're pissed off because then you're never part of the team. But if you get left out and they lose, they're going to change up and they'll bring him in and he'll do well. So
And then now he can say, well, it wasn't me.
yeah,
So,
I wasn't
Well,
part of
and-
that failure.
yeah.
Yeah, if you notice, if you look at the players that played best, like Brandt, who essentially took Sané's place,
Mhm.
he only came on as a sub, but he played very well as a sub when he came on. Kimmich, young guy, first World Cup, he was like they were relying on him to get accurate passes into the box to score. That was like their only offense. So I think Sané, I think he could have easily replaced like Draxler, who I don't know why Love started him for 2 games. He didn't do anything and hasn't done anything at PSG. So it definitely would have brought, more young hunger in there. So, but I agree. I don't know if the overall result would have changed, but yeah, who knows? He'll definitely be there next time.
Yeah, maybe they should have played their Confederations B team instead of their A team.
Well, think about it. Wouldn't it have been funny if teams were allowed to have 2 teams there? If Germany could have had the A and the B team, and then the A team gets knocked out and the B team goes and does really well.
Yeah. That'd be interesting. Yeah. So yeah, that's all right. Let's stop giving some punches to Germany. Let's move on to.
I love Germany. I just want.
yeah.
I want like harsh love. I'm a harsh love guy.
love.
If
Same
you're
here.
doing poorly, then you have to look in the mirror and actually understand what's happening. Don't BS yourself and think that all is good just because of your past success. The
Exactly.
present is what matters. The future is what matters. You got to continually reevaluate yourself.
Oh yeah, definitely agree with you.
I'm always more critical on teams I'm invested in than others.
All right, let's move on to where are we at? That Wednesday night. To the first game
Brazil.
versus Brazil and Serbia. Brazil won 2-0 against Serbia, putting them through. David, thoughts on Brazil in this game?
I wasn't particularly impressed. I know that they played better than they have in the past. I thought that was just Serbia kind of like tired through the whole World Cup. So a lot of the things that we analyze in the world or in the group stage are teams that are maybe not as talented. They'll work their tails off just to get out of the groups. And then the teams that didn't expend as much energy are able to do better in the knockout stages.
Mhm.
So I think Brazil never really even got going, but Serbia was just a little tired. They didn't have the quality that they needed in the final third to put anything away. And Brazil kind of just was able to put some goals away when they came up. I don't think anything was really impressive. I don't think Neymar looked great. I don't think any of them looked great. So
Except Neymar's diving.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I've been frustrated. Like you're telling me that there's VAR for reasons, and then there's people diving all over. And I think that Colombia was more. I saw them dive a bunch, not to pinpoint one nation, because I saw Brazil do it as well. That's why we're talking about it right now. But that disappoints me. Like I know that you can't pin, and this is what my worry was about VAR anyway, was that we were going to look at it and say, if we have this eye in the sky, then why are we not catching all this cheating, all the cheating? And I think we can't do that in soccer. So that's one of the reasons I don't want VAR. On the other hand, like we talked about in the Korea game, that totally changed the outcome because that goal wouldn't have been given. And it would have been a totally different scenario. Who knows? Maybe Germany would have gotten through, and you never really know. But in truth, I thought that it was mostly Serbia's lack of quality in the final third, and maybe some good play every now and then by Brazil that won it for them.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of surprised that they started Kramaric over Mandzukic.
That's Croatia. That's not Serbia.
Oh, wrong team. You're right. All right, go ahead, Ray. What thoughts on Serbia Brazil
No,
game?
yeah, kind of like David, not overly impressive. I think Coutinho has been Brazil's best player by far, head and shoulders over Neymar. He had the assist on Paulinho's goal, and then just mismarking on Thiago Silva's second goal by Serbia.
Exactly.
Yeah, Serbia had like their chances, just that Mitrovic worked his tail off chances, but collectively as a team, just not a lot of quality in the final third. So they worked hard, but Brazil moves on.
Hmm. Yeah, I kind of saw a little bit just the same thing from Neymar as in past games, him just dropping back and being the so-called, Messi of the team, just dropping back, trying to pick up the ball and then start something himself. Um,
And I
but
don't understand that because you have
yeah,
guys like Paulinho, guys like Fernandinho, that is like they are incredibly successful. Coutinho, those passes he made, like they can get out of these scenarios. They don't need Neymar to come and overload.
I agree.
Yeah. And the difference between Ronaldo and Messi compared to Neymar is Ronaldo and Messi like get their players involved a lot more, know when to pick passes and things like
Hmm.
that. Where Neymar, you see so many times where he's just dribbling through his guys and the other team trying to get around him. And especially like on counters, I remember there's one he brought it up at a counter and then dribbled like all the way across the top of the 18.
Hmm.
And
I
you're
saw,
making your
yeah.
teammates run like 60 yards and they're trying to get in space for a position to receive a pass and you're just going to try to dribble around everybody. And it's just frustrating watching him play.
Yeah, there's also rumors right now that his father's talking to PSG to get a transfer out with a 222 million buyout clause or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Um,
what is that buyout clause? Like $500 million at this point? Yeah.
yeah,
Gosh.
basically. But
Exactly.
like, I don't know. Like the only place he can move is Real Madrid, and I think that may be the only team that would take him because. Well, I wouldn't take him because his performance at the World Cup so far, and then if he's going to change teams every year, who wants that?
Yeah.
But that's a different subject for a different time. We're on the World Cup right now. So let's go to the next game, which is Switzerland versus Costa Rica. This was a really intense and really entertaining game. They tied 2-2. Both teams just battling it out, trying to just one up each other the whole time, and it being tied. Ray, what's your impressions about Switzerland during this game?
I mean, they're all right. I mean, Costa Rica was on the front foot for most of the game. They came out attacking and had four or five chances at the beginning. Switzerland made the most of their chances and got the first goal. But in the end, Costa Rica was able to come back and tie it up. Ruiz had that bizarre PK that went off the crossbar and hit Sommer in the back
Oh yeah,
and into the net. So
it's
really,
unfortunate.
really unlucky there to tie the game. So Costa Rica playing for pride. They got a point. Switzerland, through to the next round. So
Yeah, no harm done.
And I think that this is something that we can see as a trend, that teams that felt like they were already had one foot in the door, they kind of let the foot off the gas a little. And then teams that felt that were just playing for pride, they actually played really, really well. So,
which I was just going to say, which is confusing to me because Switzerland was only a point up on Serbia. I know Serbia played
Mhm.
Brazil, but if something would have happened, Switzerland would have been out. And I think we saw that in some other group stage games. I was a little confused by lineup choices of, you're not guaranteed in yet. You're most likely in, but you're not guaranteed yet. So why I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe international coaches or even players are just getting a little too arrogant or cocky nowadays. I don't know.
Well, my actual thoughts on it are that the group stage takes out so much energy that any chance to rest players or that to if you let up mentally even a tiny bit, then you're just gonna you're so physically tired that you're gonna relax. The World Cup is an incredibly draining.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point there. Yeah, let's move on to the next day. No, not Thursday. Today is Thursday.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'm right. Yeah, Thursday. I keep forgetting that there's 2 groups a day. Yeah, so next game we're going to talk about or mention is of Japan versus Poland game. I actually watched this game mostly all the way through. It was really entertaining. Both teams really going at it. Again, like you said, Dave, is the team going for pride here that shows up. But if Charles was here, he would say that again, no Lewandowski. So Lewandowski didn't even get that goal for Poland.
3 games, no goals.
Yeah, but a little no harm done to Japan. They got through.
I would just like to mention this is one that I previously mentioned that Japan wasn't guaranteed through, but yet they made 6 changes.
They made 6 changes.
Yeah, in their roster from the previous 2 games that got them to top of the group. So a little confusing there, but as we know, they're fortunate, even though they lost the match.
Yeah, they got lucky.
They did get very lucky. I was just thinking, because before, I'm not sure when Belgium put out their lineup or mentioned who they were starting. But I know it was at least a day or 2 before the announcers were talking in one of the games saying that Belgium were planning on not playing their starters or like subbing out a lot of people. And so that, I don't know, that could maybe be like tell a lot of other teams, okay, like we can maybe do the same thing and rest our players and still get through.
Yeah, not to go down too deep a rabbit hole, but Roberto Martinez brought it up in a press conference, I think, and I think it had to do partially with some injuries that he had, and partially with he already knew that because that group was decided almost a long time ago. So
yeah, food for thought. Who knows what's really going through these managers' heads of subbing and changing all these lineups. Yeah, let's go to the next game, Senegal versus Colombia. This game, Colombia, really, I really saw kind of the best of Colombia in this game. Really fought like to the death a little bit. Actually, that's my opinion. I don't know. I just didn't. Other group stage games weren't really that convincing for me from Colombia, especially the last one with getting a red card in the second minute. But yeah, Colombia got the win and are advancing. You got any thoughts on this game or about Colombia, Ray?
Yeah, I mean, you got Colombia's center back Mina as their leading scorer. James came off like in the 20-something minute. He was a sub in the first match and only played about 20 minutes. He played the full 90 against Poland, so everybody's like, oh, he's good with his calf. But then after 20 minutes here, he got subbed off. So I don't see how he's going to be fit for the next round. Yeah, a really, gritty match. Both teams had their chances. I felt Senegal actually had more opportunities than Colombia, and I don't know. I was hoping Senegal would make it through. They're pretty exciting to watch. But Colombia goes on.
And they had some guys that I was really surprised. They just like dribbled circles around Colombia a couple times. They made them look a little stupid, and I didn't think that bodes well for Colombia in the future, because even though Senegal's they have some incredibly talented players, I didn't think that some of their players should get outmaneuvered like they did. And then also, as Ray pointed out, Yuri Mina as their leading scorer. Once again, like I think it's partially because of James not being there, and he's a very fulcrum, very pivotal person in the attack. But that doesn't bode well for Falcao or their attack at all. So I think that we might see more of that in the game against. We'll come up on this later, but the knockout stage will be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's move on to the last couple of games. Probably one of the most disappointing games besides maybe the Germany game in the last group stage games was England versus Belgium. Both it is a very look forward to game. Really, I don't know.
Until the lineups.
Yes. Yep.
And so we can dive down this rabbit hole a tiny bit now. So Roberto Martinez, I think that was after they won the second game, and they saw that they were up six points, and he also saw, I think, that if they won and were in first, then they'd have to eventually play the winners of the Brazil, Mexico, and then the France, and a very tough bracket. So I think that he kind of said, hey, you know what? If I rest a bunch of players, and we lose, that's fine. And if we win, that's fine, because then my players will be rested. And so I think England thought about the same thing. I think they came to a similar conclusion. And the only thing that I can say, going into game analysis, I felt like England played disjointed. Belgium played a little bit better, but not much better. Players like... oh my gosh, what's the dude with the fro and the unibrow for Belgium?
Fellaini.
Fellaini. I saw him dribbling through the English players a couple times, and I'm like, Fellaini's not a small dude. What is wrong with the English players that they can't, get the ball away from him? And so I think that it was a very lackluster performance by England in complete in total, and I felt like Belgium, they didn't even want it more. They just had one moment of brilliance, and then that was it. So disappointing. Disappointing that it was the last game also. If this had been the first game of the group stage, think about how different it would have been. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have to agree with David. Once the lineups came out, it was like, these teams, don't really care who comes in first. I think Roberto Martinez actually made the comment that he would have preferred to come in second between the matches. But I guess his backups are better than England's backups.
I think, speaking of that, I have there's some players in England that say that Dembele, the midfielder that plays for Tottenham, is one of the best players in the world in their opinion, like an incredibly underrated midfielder. And he doesn't start for Belgium even. Yeah. He only plays when Roberto Martinez doesn't want anyone else to play. And he's one of the best players in the world. And so their backups, I don't know if they were that much better than England, or if England just wasn't as together as a unit, but still. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. I mostly wanted to point out how good Belgium's backups were.
No, they're absolutely loaded. And so, I just think England picked it up in the second half and created some chances that made Belgium a little uneasy. If they would have drew, then England would have finished first. But I don't know. I think in the end, this was a win for England based on the side of the bracket that both teams landed on. But we'll see.
But
go ahead.
In all, I also like to point out that Januzaj, this is, you know how I was talking about mental focus? Does Januzaj have a right foot? No, he only has a left foot. Everyone in the world knows this. He's like a really bad version of Robin. And yet they didn't, they gave him the left. And this is something that frustrates me because England knows this. He played in England. All those players know that, and they gave that to him. So just complete lackluster. Like England had a couple opportunities, and that was it.
Yeah, great strike though.
Yeah, no, it was a great goal.
That's about it. Yep. Let's go over to The last game that we're going to talk about, Panama versus Tunisia, give some kudos to these guys. Specifically to Tunisia, coming out with the win 2-1 over Panama. Yeah, I think they also showed their worth in this World Cup. Give them some little punches here and there, the England, and then coming out with the win here. So proven, like you said, of Iceland, Ray, that there's more football in the world than just, Europe and South America. Anybody have any
Agreed.
comments?
That's
Agreed.
No, yeah, Tunisia gave England problems. They scored twice against Belgium, so they were pretty good on the attack. Yeah, and they finally got 3 points to go home proud with that. So,
Yep. And with that, brings the group stage, or the knockout stage. Sorry. So on the left side of the bracket, we have Uruguay versus Portugal, France versus Argentina, Brazil versus Mexico, and Belgium versus Japan. Let's talk about the left side first. So going top bottom. Thoughts? Let's go with David first. Yeah, I was going to say that on the Uruguay Portugal game.
Yeah, so let me do a quick, just because you mentioned the whole left side. I think the left side, at least name-wise, is very big. We'll talk about in specifics. I think that, Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, even to some extent France have all had problems. But name-wise, that is an intimidating bracket. So with Portugal and Uruguay, I'd like to point out that Uruguay is the only team that had no goals against the whole group stage. So they kept clean sheets the whole time. Portugal's attack seemed pretty focused through Ronaldo. The only time they seemed to do anything else was with Quaresma. So I think that if Uruguay, who's pretty smart defensively, locks down Quaresma and keeps Ronaldo's chances to a minimum, then I think that they have a very good chance of going through. And I know I talked about this with Spain. Spain did not want to play against Uruguay. I don't know what Portugal wants. I'm sure they didn't want to play against Uruguay either. Uruguay is just an intimidating bunch. They'll knock you down time and time again, and every time you knock them down, they're fine with it because that just means that you're getting angry. So, I think this is gonna be a tough game. I don't really have predictions because I don't really know. Uruguay hasn't been scoring tons except against Russia. But Edison Cavani and Suarez are both on the sheet now, so that could be good for them. But I don't really see Portugal doing great. They haven't really shown much. They've been kind of lucky to get through. And I see Uruguay's defense carrying the way.
You have a prediction or thoughts on this game, Rim?
yeah, on Uruguay, Portugal. Yeah, I'd agree with David. And as he talked about defensively, I guess I'll do more offensively. I think Suarez and Cavani will give Pepe and Font some real problems. Portugal's two center backs.
How old are they, by the way?
Let's see. Pepe, they're both in their mid to upper 30s. So I don't know exact ages, but I know both of them are, I think, 34 or older. So I think the cut limit's 34. So yeah, I see. I don't know about a score line. Maybe 2-1 Uruguay going through.
Okay, I can see that too. Yeah, I would favor Uruguay over Portugal. Yeah, let's go to the next game. France versus Argentina. France, actually both teams looking kind of shaky in the group stage. But obviously, well, for me, I think France is looking the better team than Argentina. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, so on this one, I think that Argentina has looked incredibly bad and unlucky. They might have some grit and some team unity at this point. France, I don't think they looked great either. But I think if they turn it on, which they can do, And I think that's the difference. I don't know what Argentina's potential is with this group, and I don't think it's very high. I think Messi's potential is off the charts. On the other hand, France's potential as a unit is incredible. And so if they bring it together, I think they can destroy Argentina. I think it'd just be really ugly. I think it'd be like 4-1 or something like that. If they don't bring it together, it might be cagey because you never know with these. Do you know when this is happening? The dates?
Saturday, 5 o'clock.
Is it a second game then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these early games in the knockout, they might be kind of cagey. I'm not really sure, but so it could be cagey. But I also could see France just bringing it together and just saying, sorry Argentina, this is your limit. You're not going any further.
Actually, I think it's the first game because it's June 30th, 1700 in Russia.
Yeah.
And then the Uruguay Portugal game's at 2100, so 9 o'clock in Russia.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, France versus Argentina, the first game. Predictions for that game, Ray?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be an absolute travesty if France cannot beat this Argentine squad.
Fair enough.
But again, France hasn't looked too good themselves. I think they've looked a whole lot better in Argentina. But I don't think this is the game France puts it all together. But I think they do enough to get past Argentina and move on to the quarters. And I think it's just, we look at every big team that's, made it through, and nobody's overly impressive. It's just been a really weird World Cup, and we're kind of waiting for all the, the favorites to put it all together, but nobody has yet. So we saw Germany not be able to do it and get knocked out. I'm not sure if anybody's going to be able to completely put it all together. But yeah, I see France going through.
I also think, though, that if you look at the Spain-Argentina game that happened before the World Cup, the friendly, I think France has a lot of the same capabilities. They have players that play in Spain, and they have some similar styles potentially. So I think that it could be a similar situation, like a 4. That's why I predicted like a 4-1, because I think that what we're going to talk about here and what's going to occur is that with the bigger games, the bigger teams, they're going to play a more open style, both offensively and defensively. Somewhat, they're going to get a little more space, and that's going to, like during the group stages, it's been like a wild, crazy affair. But during it will be more nuanced and tactical football, and Argentina, I don't think, has the capability to do anything with that. So I think they're in trouble.
Yep, agreed. So let's move on to the second set on the left side. Starting out on July 2nd, first game being Brazil versus Mexico. Do you guys see Mexico really putting up a fight in this game, or? Ray?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think Mexico matches up decently, but I think they kind of showed their true colors against Sweden, and I think again Brazil will do enough to get it through. So
I think that Mexico is going to play kind of like they did against Germany. And Mexico does have experience with Brazil. In some ways, that's a bad thing because they will be a little more afraid. But in other ways, it will be a good thing because they know that they need to play a very defensive style and play on the counter. And I've seen Brazil have trouble unlocking defenses all throughout the group stage. I don't know if that will continue. So I actually see a close call and maybe go into extra time.
Cool. Yeah. Let's see what strategy
I think
Mexico comes up with, but it should be a pretty decent game. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, no, like you said, I think it's one of the most intriguing games out of the 16. Like that could be pretty entertaining. So.
And I actually really appreciate it just because of the America flair that's there. Both these teams represent the Americas, and I think that that's pretty cool. So I'm going to be excited for this game just because of that.
Yeah, it's a good aspect of it. Let's go on to the last game of that left side of the bracket, being Belgium versus Japan. Probably sort of the same question as the Brazil-Mexico game. Do you think, guys, Japan can really do it in for Belgium, or at least put a hole in them a little bit?
No, I don't think Japan stands a chance. I think Belgium will rub the floor with them. So too much quality. I mean, Japan, they had a decent group stage. They play with a lot of grit, and they are creative. They're a solid squad, but I don't see them causing too much issues.
I've really supported them slightly because of I've supported them kind of like under the current under the I don't know how to say it, but because of what Charles said, because he was kind of he was excited about Japan a little, so I can see Japan pulling off a miracle and playing really cagey defense and hitting them on the counter, but it would be a miracle. Belgium at this point is feeling their oats, and I think that they have this one.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm with you guys for that game for the favorite Belgium. Let's move to the right side of the bracket with Spain and Russia for that first game on July 1st, then Croatia, Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, and Colombia, England for the last game, July 3rd. Yeah, David, go in this game with Spain and Russia. What's the feel around Spain?
Well, once again, I'd like to give a quick overview of the bracket, and the difference between this bracket and the other one is that in this bracket, almost every team has impressed a little bit. There's only Russia, which maybe they impressed at the beginning, but they haven't impressed down the stretch. So the right side of the bracket is just intimidating. So the good part for Spain is that Russia was absolutely destroyed by Uruguay, who does not have nearly the capability and attack that Spain does. The bad part is that Russia played better on the counterattack, and they might have that in spades against Spain. They might just be able to sit back and then just launch attack after attack against Spain. And if you guys remember the World Cup in Brazil, that's how Spain got destroyed by the Netherlands, was just incredible pace down the flank and just balls and over the top of Ramos when he wasn't paying attention. And so, and also the fact that Russia has the support of the whole country behind them, which will really give them impetus to work really hard. Definite home field advantage. So I see Spain just kind of knocking them out, maybe like 3-1. It might actually get a little dirty, but like they might really, if they get ahead, they could really do some damage. And I'd feel bad for Russia if that happened because it is their World Cup. But, you got to lose sometime. So here you are. I think Spain's got it.
Yeah. Prediction, Ray?
No, yeah, I think it's been a great success for Russia to get this far because before the World Cup, they weren't looking too great at all. So to make it to the knockout round, I think that's a huge success for them. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I don't think it'll be closer than most people. Yeah, just Spain's quality will wear down Russia, and they'll get through.
Yeah, agreed. Fair enough. Spain through. Now the second game that's on July 1st. I'm particularly looking really forward to this game. It's Croatia versus Denmark. Now Denmark has proven to be what's the words? Like a pretty good adversary. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like they're not one of those teams that we saw in the World Cup that pull up upset on a big team and then crapped out last two games. And same goes to Croatia. Croatia has been up there too, and so This is going to be a really good game. I'll start off my prediction. I just think Croatia has a little too much inspiration and technique on their side for Denmark, and so I think they're going to go through. Let's go first, Ray. Thoughts?
Yeah, obviously I'll be pulling for Denmark in this match, but yeah, they're similar to Sweden. Workmanlike, team unity. I think Sweden's just, at least shown in the group stage, are a bit better. But like you said, Croatia, great group stage, and I think they'll be able to pull the strings and get past Denmark.
Yeah, and I sadly see the same thing because I really like Christian Eriksen, and I like teams that play that workmanlike style. But I think that Croatia is pretty much everyone's popular dark horse pick to win it all right now, based on what they did in the group stage. So I don't know if that'll continue, but Croatia seems to have the momentum that few other teams have.
Yeah, so this is definitely a test for both teams, and then potentially for if when one of those teams move on, they can potentially face Spain, which is be their arguably maybe their final test, if not facing maybe Brazil, Belgium, or France in the final. Going on to the next game, being Sweden versus Switzerland. This is a really interesting game too. Again, European teams. As we've seen, this whole bracket is just dominated by Europe. This time, two European teams facing each other. I don't know. I can't.
I have some opinions on this.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, go for it. You were like pondering, so I didn't know what you were going for. Go for it.
It's because this game is like you just look at both teams and you can see the quality in both teams, but with what they've proven in the group stage, for me, I can't really see like a for sure victor in this game. Your thoughts, David?
Yeah, so what I was going to say was that when you have two teams that are defensively focused, which both of these teams undoubtedly are, sometimes when they have to play against each other, there's, sometimes it's a dud, but then sometimes one of the team has to come out of the shell because, otherwise no goals are going to be scored. And that really creates this weird thing where, you're pushing out offensively out of your normal style. So you're more open to the other team coming at you. So sometimes it can really create like this interesting chess match. And so I don't have predictions because I think it's going to be like whoever falls first in the chess match, but it could actually be an interesting game to watch. And I'm excited like you are. So I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to point out that the weird tactical battle between two defensive teams can actually sometimes lead to some really interesting chess matches.
No, yeah, I'd have to agree with David. If I would lean more towards Switzerland as far as their individual quality with some players, like, I don't know, Shaqiri or Shaka. But like we already talked about, like Sweden's team unity and what they've been able to do to big opponents. Like, I can see them going on a run in this knockout stage, and so it'll be an exciting match to watch. I'm not going to pick a winner, but all I'll say is I can see Sweden going on a run.
I agree with you, Ray. I'm secretly rooting for Sweden to kind of go on a run on this one. I guess not secretly anymore, but yeah, I'm rooting for Sweden.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can see Sweden going on too. I also see Switzerland going on, but we'll have to find out. We gotta wait 5 days now for it. Yeah. Anyway, let's go into the last game. We got Colombia versus England. This is probably probably up there with like the France versus Argentina game, and arguably the Uruguay versus Portugal game, where it's like two decently powerhouse teams going at it in round of 16, with potentially both going on, and also both teams not doing particularly well in the group stage either. So I don't know. For me, it's
Wait.
pretty of it.
England didn't do good in the group stage.
Well, I mean,
So the question,
And then-
you bring up a good point, Derek, because the question is, do we say that game against Belgium, do we just not count it? Because otherwise they
Yeah.
played well. But if you count that
Yeah,
game against Belgium,
I
They
don't
did
count
not
the
play.
Belgium game.
oh,
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
they only lost 1-0 with like both B teams out there. So,
but they
it's
didn't
kinda
look good in it, yeah.
like,
I mean, a lot of people like argue that England like hasn't, like, yeah, they scored goals and stuff, but hasn't looked as good as they want them to look.
I actually wanted to bring this up in the group part. England, I think, I don't know how many goals they scored in open play. Most of their goals have come through set piece opportunities. And so I think that's something really important to factor in, because that means that if they can continue to get those set piece opportunities, then they might do well. But if they don't, then that can lead to them hitting a wall at some point against a team that just plays smart enough defense so they don't get those fouls called in the correct spots.
No, that's true, because like Harry Kane's 2 goals against Tunisia were corners, and he's had 2 PKs against Panama, and then one that accidentally went off his heel that counted for him. So that's a lot of their goal scoring. So
that's why I said that, because a lot of England fans, like, yeah, they won both their games, or like 2 games, and then the whatever Belgium game, but they didn't look particularly good winning those games. But yeah, go ahead, dude.
Yeah, so let's go into predictions for this then. That's where I want to go. I think that Colombia and England are actually very well matched, and I think it could be a very fun game, because Colombia, I don't know when they first burst on the scene. I guess it was the 14 one when James really showed himself. But Falcao is in better form. If James is feeling all right, and I think there's enough time for him to recover, and Cuadrado, they could really do some damage. And then England, of course, I think that Harry Kane is going to get a goal, and I think that they have a lot of quality. So I'm excited for this game. I think it could be a good, like a 2-3 either way. I don't really know.
Yeah, predictions, Ray?
Yeah, I think it go either way. I think a lot depends, like we talked about, on James's health. It's pretty up in the air, so I don't know. If he'll start, if he'll come on the bench, if he'll do what he did today and start and then come off early because something's bugging him. Yeah, obviously I'm pulling for England, and I don't know. I think they can do it, and I think that would be, possibly propel them to go on a deep run in this tournament too, based on how that side of the bracket faces up. We did talk about England, how impressive are they against their competition and the type of goals they scored. So I guess there's some unknown still there, but yeah, I'm not going to say who's going to win. Very exciting game for the round of 16. It could go either way.
Now to flip the script again, though, after being harsh on England because of the way they score goals, there's another way of doing World Cup ranking, or like World Soccer ranking. So right now we're doing like on FIFA, but they're going to switch to a new one the next time. And FIFA's rankings, I think, are only like 50% accurate, or maybe less than 50% accurate in predicting winners in the group stage, which is horrible. Flip a coin, gosh, that's going to be better. But this new ranking system, I think, had the group stage like 90%, and they have England as number 4. so in the world. So based on that, you do pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have all these games are really intriguing. Make sure to watch out for them on Saturday, not tomorrow, Friday, because tomorrow's the rest day, and then Saturday, hit back up again with France and Argentina first, and then Uruguay and Portugal. And then from there it kicks off all the way till July 3rd, and then we have the quarterfinals. And so look out for a video from us about the round of 16, and we'll talk about quarterfinals then.
Quarter. Oh yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Closing comments, Ray?
Yeah, just excited for the knockout, the hearts to break, the jubilation from teams that move on in the knockout round. So, yeah, it'll be exciting.
As for me, I have really liked these last couple days because of the importance of the last games for most of them, excluding games like Denmark, France, but most of them have been do or die scenarios. And so this is what's going to be the rest of the World Cup. We're done with games that just get you points. This is either you win and you're out. So this is some fun times. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. This is where the good stuff comes in. The group stage has been really good. Don't get me wrong. It's just like you guys been saying, it's just been pure chaos, and now it's going to get tactical and everything. So it's going to get really interesting. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Also hit that like button, and watch out for our video about the round 16 and predictions for the quarterfinals. See you guys next time.
Goodbye.
Cheers.